Have you ever wondered about the origins of the land of 1,000 hills? Let's dive into the early history of Rwanda. Our story begins thousands of years ago with the first settlers, the Batwa and Twa tribes, hunter-gatherers who inhabited the region's forests. As time passed, new waves of Bantu settlers, the Hutu, arrived, introducing farming into the rich, fertile hills of Rwanda. These agricultural innovations forever changed the landscape and the way of life. In the 15th century, another group, the Tutsi, migrated into the region. The Tutsi, primarily herders, established a monarchy under the leadership of the Nyiginya clan. This monarchy centralized power, creating a cohesive Rwandan identity under the rule of the Mwami, or king. The kingdom was marked by elaborate rituals, royal courts, and a complex system of cattle vassalage. Thus began the reign of the Tutsi dynasty that would last for centuries. But what happens when foreign powers enter the scene? Let's explore the colonial era. As the 19th century drew to a close, the continent of Africa became a chessboard for European powers. Among the many territories claimed was Rwanda, which fell under German control in the late 1800s. Though the Germans ruled from afar, their reign marked the beginning of Rwanda's colonial era. The Germans, eager to exploit Rwanda's resources, implemented a system of indirect rule. They leaned heavily on the existing power structures, particularly the monarchy, to maintain control. However, they also brought with them new ideas of racial science, which would have profound implications for Rwanda's future. These European colonizers began to categorize Rwandans into distinct ethnic groups. They identified the Tutsi as the ruling class, supposedly because of their more European-like features, such as a taller stature and a thinner nose. The Hutu, on the other hand, were identified as the peasant class. This racial classification was not merely academic, it was codified into law and policy, influencing every aspect of Rwandan life from education to employment. These divisive policies exacerbated pre-existing social differences and created a hierarchy that favored the Tutsi minority over the Hutu majority. The winds of change blew over Rwanda once again after World War I. The Treaty of Versailles transferred control of Rwanda from Germany to Belgium. The Belgians continued the policies of their predecessors, further deepening the ethnic divide. In the mid-20th century, the Belgians introduced identity cards, further entrenching the divisions between Hutu and Tutsi. For the first time, Rwandans were officially labeled by their ethnicity. These labels, once merely a tool of administration for the colonial powers, would become a matter of life and death in the years to come. The colonial era, for all its complexity, left an indelible mark on Rwanda. Yes, it brought modernity and infrastructure, but it also brought a rigid and harmful social structure that pitted neighbor against neighbor, friend against friend. Thus, the seeds of ethnic tension were sown, leading to a troubled future. So, what led to the end of colonial rule? Let's uncover the events of the Hutu Revolution. In the mid-20th century, Rwanda was a nation on the brink of monumental change. The seeds of this transformation were sown in the social and political landscape of the time. Rwanda, like many African nations, was under colonial rule, first by Germany and then by Belgium. The colonial powers, using a policy of divide and rule, exacerbated the existing social hierarchies between the Hutu majority and the Tutsi minority. Over time, tension simmered and the stage was set for a dramatic upheaval. The spark came in the form of the 1959 Hutu Revolution. This was a period of intense violence and upheaval as the Hutus rose against the Tutsi elite. The revolution was fueled by a desire for political power and social justice, and by resentment against the privileges enjoyed by the Tutsi minority under colonial rule. The revolution resulted in thousands of Tutsi deaths and forced many more into exile. In the wake of the revolution, the political landscape of Rwanda was irrevocably changed. The tumultuous years that followed saw the establishment of a Hutu-led government. This was a significant shift, as power was wrested from the Tutsi minority and placed in the hands of the Hutu majority. A few years later, in 1962, Rwanda finally gained independence from Belgium. The newly independent nation was a far cry from the one that had existed under colonial rule. The social hierarchy had been turned on its head, and a new era of governance had begun. However, independence did not bring an end to the country's troubles. The divisions that had been exploited and exacerbated during colonial rule continued to fester. The seeds of resentment and hatred sown during this period would, in time, lead to one of the darkest chapters in Rwanda's history. With independence, the tables turned, leading to a new era of governance. But not all change is positive. Let's delve into the dark chapter of the genocide against the Tutsi. The early 90s in Rwanda were a time of escalating ethnic tension. The pre-existing animosity between the Hutu majority and the Tutsi minority was exacerbated by political manipulations. The assassination of Rwanda's then-president, Juvenal Habyarimana, a Hutu, in April of 1994, lit the fuse for an explosion of violence. Over a span of 100 days, an estimated 800,000 to 1 million Tutsi and moderate Hutu were systematically slaughtered. Imagine the scale of that loss. It's like wiping out the entire population of a city like San Francisco. The genocide was characterized by its speed and the brutality with which it was carried out. Many victims were betrayed by neighbors, friends, and even family members, making the tragedy all the more poignant. The international response, or rather the lack of it, remains a point of contention even today. Despite clear indications of an impending genocide, the United Nations and the broader international community largely stood by. The failure to intervene has since been acknowledged as a significant failing of the international community. The aftermath of the genocide was marked by a catastrophic humanitarian crisis. Over 2 million people, mainly Hutu, fled the country, fearing Tutsi reprisals. The socio-economic fabric of the country was torn apart, and the emotional scars ran deep. But amidst the despair, the resilience of the Rwandan people began to shine through. From the ashes of devastation, a commitment to unity and reconciliation emerged. Today, the genocide is not forgotten. It is remembered and mourned, but it is also used as a lesson and a warning against the devastating consequences of hatred and division. The genocide left a deep scar on Rwanda, but it also marked a turning point. The nation chose to rise from its ashes, to remember its past, but not be defined by it. In the subsequent scenes, we'll explore how Rwanda has been rebuilding itself, striving for a future that honors its past but is not bound by it. How does a nation rise from such a tragedy? Let's explore the rebuilding of Rwanda. In the aftermath of the genocide against the Tutsi, Rwanda faced the formidable task of healing and reconstruction. The genocide left the country on its knees, with its infrastructure in ruins and its people traumatized. But as the saying goes, the darkest hour is just before dawn, and for Rwanda, the dawn was about to break. The end of the genocide marked the beginning of a new era. A new government, led by the Rwandan Patriotic Front, took charge, laying down the foundations for a peaceful and prosperous Rwanda. They focused on uniting the country, promoting reconciliation, and fostering a sense of national identity that transcended ethnic lines. But how does one heal a nation scarred by such a brutal past? This was a question Rwanda had to grapple with. The answer came in the form of Gakaka courts, a traditional form of justice that was adapted to try genocide cases. These community-led courts played a crucial role in delivering justice, encouraging truth-telling, and fostering reconciliation. As the nation healed, it began to grow. Rwanda embarked on an impressive journey of economic growth. Investments were made in sectors like technology, tourism, and agriculture, transforming Rwanda into one of the fastest-growing economies in Africa. Education, too, became a priority. Today, Rwanda boasts one of the highest literacy rates in Africa, and it's not just about numbers. The education system has been revamped to promote critical thinking, encouraging Rwandans to be problem solvers and innovators. Healthcare, another critical area, saw significant improvements. Rwanda's community-based health insurance scheme has been hailed as a model for other developing countries. It's an initiative that has led to better health outcomes and reduced financial barriers to healthcare access. And let's not forget the strides made in women empowerment. Rwanda leads the world in terms of women representation in parliament, with over 60% of seats held by women. It's a testament to Rwanda's commitment to gender equality and women's rights. Despite its tragic past, Rwanda has emerged as a beacon of hope, showing how a nation can heal and grow. So, where does all this history leave Rwanda today? From its early beginnings, the resilience of Rwanda has been an enduring theme. The Colonial Era, with its imposed divisions, set the stage for future conflict. The struggle for independence and the Hutu Revolution brought about significant changes, but also sparked a tragic genocide against the Tutsi. Yet it is from these ashes that Rwanda has risen once again. The country's rebuilding has been remarkable, a testament to the indomitable spirit of its people. Today, Rwanda is a beacon of hope, not just in Africa, but around the world. The vibrancy of Kigali, the commitment to conservation, the burgeoning coffee industry, and the evolving culinary scene are all reflections of a nation that has learned from its past and is confidently striding towards a promising future. History tells us where we've been, but it's up to us to decide where we're going. And for Rwanda, the journey ahead is filled with promise and potential.